We have lots to talk about in today's video, including the latest trade talk around teams like the Montreal Canadiens, Ottawa Senators, and Vancouver Canucks. We had a major announcement in St. Louis today revolving a succession plan for the leadership of that team in the front office, so we'll discuss that. Plus, the San Jose Sharks have themselves a new head coach. We also have other news as well, including some signings in Carolina, as well as New York, and Utah has revealed their new logo and jerseys for their first season. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss today. First up, a quick update and preview on Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final, which goes tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. By the time this video hits YouTube, the game is likely going to be underway. But we do know that Alexander Barkov, captain of the Panthers, will be available. He skated yesterday in Florida before they went on their journey to Edmonton, which turned out to be quite a long journey. They were severely delayed getting into Edmonton last night. By the time they arrived, it's about 22 hours ahead of game time, which really wasn't ideal. So we'll see if that affects them at all in tonight's game. But Barkov was on the ice once they did have their skate today and will play tonight. So I guess all in all, he's not going to miss time. It's probably fair that Leon Draisaitl doesn't either. I know there's a lot of fans wanting to see a suspension, but at the end of the day, player safety opted not to go any further than what the referees called on the ice. And the Oilers side of the business is looking like Darnell Nurse will be available, and there will likely be changes to the lineup for Edmonton, but we don't know at this point. Has not been revealed. We probably won't know until the team goes out for warm-up. It seems possible, based on conversations and what things have looked like at practice, that Evander Kane may not play. Of course, we know Kane is playing through a pretty severe injury, getting it out, which is great and all. You like, as a teammate, you like to see Warriors like that going through and, giving everything they got, even when they're, hurt and dealing with stuff. But he's at a point where you have to even question if he can be effective anymore. And it might be better off to have another skater in his place, even if they might not have the same skill set or same experience or what have you. So it is possible Kane may sit tonight. We'll have to wait and see. And there could be some other changes too. It wouldn't even be a complete shocker if they went 11-7. We'll wait and see what Knobloch decides to do. When they go out for warm-up, we'll have a better idea. As I mentioned, lots of other news around the NHL today. All kinds of stuff, including a major announcement that came early today in St. Louis. The Blues had put out a teaser saying that they had a major hockey operations announcement that was coming. I believe it was 10 o'clock local time, and a lot of people speculated on what it could be. And what is going to be going down is that Doug Armstrong has put together a succession plan along with owner Tom Stillman for Alex Steen to become the team's new general manager, but that's not happening today. Alex Steen has signed a 5-year contract with the Blues to be a special assistant or a special advisor to the GM, and will work very closely with Armstrong over the next 2 years to kind of learn the role and be ready to take over. So in 2 years' time, Steen will become general manager, and at that point, Doug Armstrong will only be president, because right now he's president and general manager. Armstrong's also extended his contract. He has 2 years left on his current one. They've extended him by 3 more to match the contract of Steen. So they both expire at this point in 5 years' time. And we'll see where this goes. Obviously, Alex Steen is somebody who's kind of getting back involved with the Blues here. Been working with them, for the past year, I believe it's or so. And Armstrong said essentially that Steen's been around the game as pretty much his whole life, where his father was an NHL player, and as looked upon as being one of those bright hockey minds that should excel in the role. So at this point, Alex Steen will make the full-time move back to St. Louis, and will begin working closely with Armstrong and kind of begin the process of getting ready to take over the next couple of years. Kind of like what we saw with Barry Trotz in Nashville, but a little bit different because it's going to be a longer period of time. So, Doug Armstrong has been there over a decade, has brought a lot of success, the first Stanley Cup ever to St. Louis. He said he could probably manage, another decade plus if he was, based on what he loves and how he feels and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, he thought this is what's best for the St. Louis Blues. So we will see how things work out for them, but at least we know now their plans, and Alex Steen will become the next general manager in a couple of years' time. Now, the San Jose Sharks also named themselves a new head coach today. They were one of the final teams we were waiting on to make this announcement, and they've gone with Ryan Warsofsky, of course, who was an internal candidate as well. Recently an assistant coach with the Sharks, had 2 times led the Canes AHL affiliate to Calder Cups in the American Hockey League. He kind of retired from playing at a young age in his mid-20s. Didn't make it too far. Spent a bunch of years working in the East Coast League as well, including assistant coach, head coach, and then worked up from there to the AHL, now the NHL. So Ryan Warsofsky, an internal candidate. It's an interesting hire. I mean, looking at his resume, he's a young guy, only 36, so he'll certainly be a young NHL head coach. They're also going to have a fairly young NHL team there, and certainly a team that's going through a major rebuild. So it kind of takes the pressure off him from winning, but at the same time, you quite often see head coaches that are rebuilding teams versus taking them to the next level when they're ready to come out of that. They quite often aren't the same people. So either way, it's good experience for him. There was certainly a lot more experienced candidates on the market, but they opted to go with Warsofsky, and like I said, he's been kind of recognized as being an up-and-coming coach. So not a shocker, but at the same time, interesting that a more experienced coach wasn't what they opted for, but certainly they feel this is the way to go. So we'll see how things work out. Of course, we had already heard a while back that Amazon was getting into the NHL broadcasting world, especially with the Canadian rights. They've taken part of the Rogers package for next year on Monday nights, and now they also have a new show that's going to be coming on Amazon Prime on Thursday nights as well this fall, where you're going to be able to kind of whip around live looking show is kind of what it's being looked upon here. So essentially, like if you look at, I think it was called, there was a Sportsnet had a program. I think that they put it on Twitter back quite a while ago, and I think they called it like ice surfing or something. Be something I would suspect along those lines, but it's going to be a studio show based and produced by Amazon Prime, basically where they're going to jump around and you're going to get bits and pieces of all the different games going on that night. So if you have Amazon Prime, it's not going to be just Mondays. There's going to be stuff on Thursdays as well. Some other signings around the NHL as well. We got word that Yuri Smejkal, who is the former Ottawa Senator, came over from Europe last year as a European UFA, is heading back to Europe after only a 1-year stint in North America. His 1 year with the Sens saw him play 47 games with the American Hockey League Belleville team and 20 games in the NHL, mostly all on a bottom 6 role. They thought maybe they'd get themselves, because he's got good size, and I think the team thought they were going to get a guy who was a good skater, good size, could be a bottom 6, good defensive player with a bit of offensive upside. And in the preseason, his offensive upside was showing. We know the preseason often isn't a great indication of what's going to be, the case when things are counting and when, the real games start. But that never really translated. He did end up getting a few points and got his first NHL goal, but at the end of the day, he was pretty decent defensively, played a good role as an older guy down in Belleville, but certainly not somebody that they saw getting a regular role moving forward. So he had an opportunity to sign back in Czechia and get on to one of the stronger teams there. So he likely won't be making the jump back to the NHL anytime soon. But we'll see. You never know. Maybe he'll resurface. But for now, he's going to be playing in Europe. And we know that the Carolina Hurricanes today extended defenseman Jalen Chatfield. He was going to get a lot of attention on the free agent market, being an up-and-coming defenseman that's a little bit older in his 20s. He's put in his time, paid his dues, had more of a full-time role at the Canes the past couple of years. Wasn't going to cost a ton of money either, but the Canes get him locked up on a 3-year deal at $3 million per season. He gets the first 2 years. He gets a no-move clause as well. In year 3, there's a 15-team no-trade. Honestly, I think that's completely ridiculous. I don't have no problem with the money they're playing Chatfield there. I expect his role to increase as well. They've got a lot of pending UFAs on that blue line in Carolina. I don't know if they're all going to be back. They're trying to sign Pesce, Shea, etc. Probably the odds of at least one of them leaving are probably pretty decent. But for I honestly don't know that teams really should be giving out no move clauses to players that are not top line or top defensemen. Like, I don't get it. They give these out way too much, and then they complain that trades are too hard to make. But at the end of the day, good for Chatfield. Obviously, not his fault that they agreed to his demands, and he gets a pretty good contract, 3 years at $3 million, which, for like I said, for somebody who's seen more of a bigger role, more ice time, a bit of an uptick in offense, put up 8 goals last year, so I know he was going to get a lot of attention on the open market. So good signing there by Carolina to get him locked up. I just don't like the fact they give him a no move clause, but it's good for him, I guess. They're also working on an extension for top defenseman Jacob Slavin, even though they've got lots of UFA business to take care of this offseason, as well as some RFA business. Slavin's not as much of an urgent need, but it is one of their top priorities, and I would expect, based on what we've heard, a contract extension for Slavin to be announced probably sometime, right around July 1 or shortly thereafter. We also get word today that the New York Rangers have re-signed forward Kaapo Kakko. He gets a 1-year contract, $2.4 million. That's actually the same as what his qualifying offer would be. Qualifying offers haven't been given yet. They're not due here for a few more weeks, but that's what he would have been due on a QO. So no big surprise that that's what he signs for. We know that he didn't have a great season. I still wonder if his future with the team, I do really think they will consider looking at a trade for him. Just because he signed a contract doesn't mean he's not going to move. Oftentimes players are considered more valuable with a contract than without, so there's no guesswork on what it's going to take to get a deal done. So I still think that could be in the future. Maybe not, though. Not a guarantee by any means. He was the 2nd overall pick. A few years ago, I'm sure they're not going to want to give up on him, but it's been quite a while, and he knows he didn't have a great season. He even said so himself after the season ended that, he would have liked to have had a better year. So we will see where things go, but obviously, a good short-term contract for him to play in New York, or, if he has moved somewhere else. Either way, good signing there as well. We also got word that the Florida Panthers are going to have a new and different East Coast League affiliate for next season. Next year, they're going to have an agreement in place that kicks in with the Savannah Ghost Pirates. So the team will technically get a little further away, but will remain closer to their AHL affiliate. So at the same time, that's a team name that I think is kind of neat, the Ghost Pirates, but Savannah will be not too far from Charlotte. So good in that sense, and not really all that far from Florida at the end of the day. Now, we also got word as well out of Columbus that Adam Fantilli's changing his number. For Fantilli fans, if you have a jersey or if you really follow that stuff, his number is not going to be 11 anymore. He's making the switch to 19. We also get some pretty big news today as well from the Utah team. The NHL's put out a press release earlier that the sale is finally officially closed for the Utah franchise to be fully operational at this point. Obviously they bought the Arizona Coyotes players and hockey operations department, moved them to Utah. So they said that, the ink is finally dried and everything is officially done and closed there. And they announced their logo and jerseys for their inaugural season, which is obviously going to be this fall. Keep in mind, this is not permanent, but the color scheme will remain intact and will stay with them. Of course, they have a color scheme of basically white, black, and blue. It's called rock black, salt white, and mountain blue. I really like the blue. I know for right now, the white and black are going to be like your home and away jerseys, which I'll show you here on the screen. But the blue, to me, is obviously going to be very much emphasized, I think, in their permanent color scheme and the color of jerseys once we get to that point where we have a team name. Of course, team name voting is still taking place. We still have the final 6 names that are being whittled down right now. Of course, Utah HC is one of them. The other 5 names include the Utah Outlaws, the Utah Blizzards, the Utah Venom, and the Utah Yetis. So we will see what the voting looks like and what they end up going with, but a lot of those names would work well with this light blue. The light blue kind of reminds me of the old Hockey Night in Canada colors as well. So certainly let me know your thoughts on the new jerseys. I know they're basic, but we knew that it was going to be the case. And like I said, it's only for one season. Once we have the team name, we'll get more marketing and logo and everything like that. Apparently their first bit of merch will be available at their draft party on June the 28th. Now, some other updates as well connecting to the Coyotes here. There was word today on a couple of things. One, we know that the actual auction for Alex Murillo to try to buy the land where he intends to build this new arena and eventually bring the Coyotes back is coming up soon. soon on June the 27th. It's about 2 weeks away from now. Now, we've heard from a well-connected source that there is now 4 registered bidders, so he's not going to be the only one. There was some talk when this first broke weeks and months ago that he may have a slam dunk easy path to victory, that there probably won't even be anybody bidding against him, that quite often in these cases when these the land auctions happen around there, that's just, when somebody knows that somebody's got lots of money and they're going to buy it to build whatever project, that quite often is how it goes. But that doesn't really seem to be the case, and I wonder if the team not being there might play a role in some of this. But according to PHNX Sports and Craig Morgan and Liam Errol and Steve Peters, who've been following this very closely, they're kind of like your local people I think are most connected to get all the news. They've been saying there's lots of other hurdles too. It's not just the bidding. The fact that he's got 4 bidders, or 4 counting him, registered now. That's going to be 3 different bidders against him. There's also the tax abatement issues and some zoning issues that have to be overcome as well. And it is still a remote possibility, depending on how the zoning and everything went, that it could go to a referendum. And we know how referendums seem to work with Coyotes in that area. It probably would not go well. So it's still very much an uphill battle. All kinds of obstacles for Maroula to jump through to even have a chance to put a shovel in the ground. There's also word today with the Coyotes that there was a meeting called this afternoon, and that a lot of their employees found out that they are going to be having a lot of layoffs, so mass layoffs within the company. Not a shocker there. It is happening a little bit sooner than based on what he had said when this all first transpired with the team going to Utah. Certainly let us think that it would probably be a little bit sooner, but at the same time, gets them to around the end of the month. So a lot of these people are going to be losing their jobs as of month end. Severance is going to be equivalent to 1 paycheck, and they will have their health care extended, I think, until, I don't know if it was the full month of July or into July sometime. So that's what Craig Morgan had gotten for details from somebody who was in the meeting. So, not good at all. We knew that was probably coming, but it certainly sucks for those people. A lot of them have been wondering and what's going to happen, and for quite some time. So I guess as much as it's good to get clarity, it sucks to get news that things are happening that negatively affect you. So obviously, kind of interesting that both pieces of these news come on the same day. On the trade rumor front, lots of things to talk about today. I want to talk about 3 different teams. Vancouver being one. Vancouver is looking to move Ilya Mikheyev. We've talked a lot about their UFA stuff and the fact that they've got Lindholm and Zadorov and Joshua that are all, unfortunately right now, things are not looking good to keep them. They're all trending towards hitting the market and likely signing elsewhere. That still, I guess, isn't it's not done till it's done type of thing, but not trending well. The Canucks are reportedly in the mix, or at least want to be in the mix, to sign Jake Guentzel. So that's certainly a player they appear to be targeting as a UFA that could come in. Might make more sense for them to go after a guy like Guentzel than a guy like Lindholm. Lindholm did serve his purpose as a rental, but at the end of the day, when he was first traded there was talk he might be a winger for Pettersson. Then later it was more like the third-line center, and you don't want to pay your third-line center $7-8 million. You can't do that. So at the end of the day, makes more sense to go after a guy like Guentzel. So we'll see if they're successful, but they'll definitely be in that mix as well. Philip Hronek, of course, is a restricted free agent that they do have. He has arb right, so that they have a fallback option to go to arbitration if need be. I don't think either party really wants that. It tends to get ugly and tends to sometimes have impacts on the long-term relationship between the team and the player. So you want to avoid that if you can. But at the same time, right now we're hearing that they're far apart in contract talks. I don't know that the Canucks' first option is their first preference is to trade him. We've heard lots about that. A lot of fans were saying, he wants $8 million. You can't pay him that. You got to get rid of him. But at the same time, you're going to want to be replacing him as soon as you move him. You got to be careful here. He is a really good right shot defenseman, put up some good numbers. I know his second half he struggled, and a lot of speculation that he was dealing with an injury, and even though he was asked about it, didn't really want to get into it, didn't really want to have excuses. And to be honest, if he's a no excuse kind of guy, that's the kind of guy you want to have on your team. So at the end of the day, we'll see what happens with Hronek, but far apart in contract talks, and Mikheyev just not producing, not really living up to his contract. It would be great for them to find a way to move on from that, to free up some necessary space to do some of the other things that they're looking to do. Could there be a buyout? Maybe, but it doesn't seem as likely. I think they're more likely to, even if they need to eat a little bit of money, to try to trade the contract and move on from it. So we will see what Vancouver does, but they have lots of different things that they're certainly entertaining right now, and we'll go from there. In Montreal, there were some talks that, of course, we know that they're looking to do a variety of things. Again, still lots of talk about them, making a splash at the draft and getting a top 6 winger. And who that's going to be, we don't know. Ever since the news broke about Patrick Laine wanting out of Columbus, there's been lots of talk about him. Again, they'd have to get him cheaply for it to make any sense. The Trevor Zegras talk picked up again today as well, because apparently Trevor Zegras and Marty St. Louis were seen together at a gym in the New York area. I'm not sure exactly where in New York, but I know Zegras is from that. It's an area that he spends a lot of time in the summer, because he is from New York. And Marty St. Louis spends a lot of time in that area too. So not shocking that they would end up at a gym together. I don't believe, by the sounds of things, that it was, a planned visit. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But they apparently did leave together after being seen talking at the gym. And of course, nobody really knows where they went, what they were doing. Could have been a very innocent conversation, but with all the speculation and rumors of Zegras to Montreal, and suddenly he's spotted talking to the head coach, it's got everybody up in arms and talking about it. So it's difficult to say, really where things are at. The last we've heard when it comes to trade talks was that the Habs had definitely reconnected with Anaheim, and were definitely, had some interest, there's no doubt, but a lot of it's going to boil down to asking price. And well, from what we've heard, the asking price from Anaheim to get Zegras was going to be one of their top young defensemen, either Caden Gooley or David Reinbacher. Now, maybe they work out a different deal, maybe over time, if Pat Verbeek really wants to move the player, that he might have to change his price. We'll see, but that's where things sit right now. I don't know that the Habs will do that deal with that asking price. If they can get him for a different price, maybe. There's certainly other teams out there as well. Not a given that they move Zegras, but it sounds to me like they'd like to get a different type of young player, and it'd have to be more of a hockey trade. So we will see on that front. But Montreal is still expected to be very busy and active around the draft, and certainly trying to get themselves another top 6 player. That's not changed at all. But the Zegras news today I certainly found interesting, and I guess time will tell if there's anything to that or not. And in Ottawa, we want to look at the Senators as well. So they had a ticket event for a season ticket event yesterday, and they had a chance, fans did, to listen and ask questions to some of their leadership there, including Senior Vice President Dave Poulin, as well as President on the business side, Cy Leader. They did talk a bit about a variety of things, and they talked about the fact that Poulin said that they're very much open to moving the 7th overall pick, which caught a lot of people by surprise. Essentially, he said that he's not saying that they're out actively trying to move it, but he said they've had a lot of calls wondering if they're interested, and he said for right now they have to say that they're flexible and they're at least willing to consider it, because you don't know what kind of offers are going to come. Maybe they get a really good player who can help them immediately. Maybe they get a trade that involves them still picking in the first round but moving back. He's basically just saying that, we have to say we're flexible because we don't know what the offers are going to be. So they've had calls on it, which is not shocking in the least. Like I said before, with all the talk about, suddenly Ottawa wanting a Ginla in the draft. Well, that might be trying to push Calgary to make a move with Jacob Markstrom. They're very much, Poulin says they're very much actively trying to make changes in the goaltending department. He acknowledged both goalies have, told them that they're not happy with their seasons. They recognize that it wasn't good and that they need to be better. So, could they run back the goaltending tandem? I really don't think they can. I have to think a Korpisalo trade or buyout is very much at the forefront here. Forsberg's easier to move. I wouldn't be completely shocked if they came back with 2 different goalies next year, but at the very least they have to have one, and that one has to be a proven starter if they're really going to be able to seriously contend. There was even some talk that not only Markstrom and Ullmark, which have been the 2 names they've been linked to the most, but Dave Pagnotta is also saying that former Senators goalie who's with Minnesota now, Philip Gustafson, is also somebody that they're looking at, because they do know that he is available. He's been linked to some other teams too. the Wild are in a position where they need to shed some money, and certainly they have Marc-Andre Fleury and Jesper Wallstedt. So, after a couple of years with Gustafsson, they might be ready to move on there as well and let the veteran kind of be a tutor for the youngster, so to speak, in Wallstedt. They have a great top goalie there who could be the goalie of the future very much. So we'll see what happens on that front. Also in Ottawa, lots of other things happening. We still don't know the exact details, but it sounds like lots of talk around Jacob Chychrun. Will he be moved? Hard to say, but he's out there. The name of Matthew Joseph is out there. Eric Brandstrom's name is out there. Lots of players with the Senators could be moved. We don't know exactly what all they're going to do, of course, but they have lots of balls in the air. Lots of conversations are ongoing, and I do expect there to be a good amount of change. The main bigger news that we heard, like I said, was the fact that they're actually open to moving 7th overall. But, like I said, that's going to take a significant deal. And I still think they need to pick in the first round if they can move back, but maybe get a great asset that helps them now, then they can maybe do that as well. They have also been linked. It doesn't mean they're going to be successful, because I'm sure there will be a long list of teams, but they are very interested in the services of Chris Tanev, should he become on the market for UFA on July 1. They were very much after him at the trade deadline, fell short of getting him there. Of course, he wanted the chance to chase the Stanley Cup, which they were not in a position to do. And to be honest, if he's going to be a free agent, makes more sense to get him this way, because it doesn't cost you any assets. So hard again. It doesn't mean they're going to be successful, but they are rumored to be very much interested in him. And of course, they want to add some more veteran leadership to help, Captain Brady Tkachuk and guys like Claude Giroux, etc. Like, they do have some leadership there, but they need more of it, and they could have some more veteran help. So certainly, like I said, guys like Joseph, guys like Brandstrom are on the market. Korpisalo, Forsberg, Chychrun. There could be a lot of change. Steve Staios has his work cut out for him, to say the least, but we'll likely see at least 1 or 2 significant deals around the draft, and it could involve their first round pick. We'll have to wait and see. So let me know your thoughts on all today's news and rumors down in the comments, and we'll talk further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.